What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Gamers with Grit, the series where we combine our love of video games and all things nerdy with health and lifestyle. Because let's face it, unfortunately, a lot of guys like myself, we aren't exactly in tip-top shape because our hobby is a little bit on the sedentary side. Now, some of you, the very few of you who watched this series start more than a year ago, are probably asking one very important question. What the fuck happened? And that's a very good question to ask. So I'm going to cover today exactly what I started last year, how abysmally I have failed since then, the challenges that I faced then and now, and talking about where I am as of today and the plans for the next couple of weeks. And I really hope that you join me on this journey. But before we get into all that, make sure you hit that like button, that notifications bell, that nice red subscribe, and we can get straight into it. All right, so to start this conversation, we need to go back to June 2019. What a lovely time June 2019 was. There was no COVID. I had sleep because I didn't have a child at that point. And I was looking all starry-eyed with dreams of becoming fit and ripped and looking like my hero, Hugh Jackman, in that Wolverine outfit. Now, unfortunately, here we are in July 2020, more than 1 year since I sat down and weighed in. Now, back then, I was around 133 kilograms, and you can go back and look in that video as to how I looked back then, which at that point, I said I was so ashamed of myself because it was the fattest and least healthy that I've ever been. Well, let's just say that we've eclipsed that in ways that I did not think possible even for me. So unfortunately, as of right now, this is where I am sitting. This is very much a bad thing. You see, right now, I am on my way to closing down 150 kilos, about halfway between 140 and 150. For those of you in America, that means we're significantly over 300 pounds. And that ranges somewhere on the scale of morbidly obese to damn! That's very, very heavy, and it's not sustainable. Now, some of you probably remember that one of the reasons I wanted to do this series was that a year ago, I was getting ready to have our first kid. Well, my wife was going to do the heavy lifting. My job was pretty much done by then. But I didn't want to be that dad who was overweight, couldn't chase his kid, had health issues, and dies in his mid-40s of a heart attack. Now, unfortunately, at that time, I didn't have any health issues. As of right now, that has changed quite dramatically. So what really kickstarted this progress recently was two things. One, the COVID lockdown is finally coming to an end, meaning that we can go outside again, which is awesome news. Now, unfortunately, at the same time, I was starting to have a few issues. I was getting some chest pains, and what was happening is twice in a row, I woke up with basically my throat on fire. I was choking. It felt like my lungs were burning, and I could not breathe. Now, given what I do for my real job, I assumed that it was just the sheer weight that I had and that it was sleep apnea. But after that second event and the fact that I coughed up a little bit of acid and what looked like blood, I had to go get checked out. So the last month, for all of you wondering why our content hasn't been as frequently on YouTube, I've been getting a series of tests backwards and forwards across the hospital network here. And what's come back is that my blood pressure is high, but not quite high enough to require medication. The great news is my heart looks okay. There was nothing in my bloods that indicated that, I've got heart disease or anything like that at this point. And gut bacteria, they were worried that I had like a lactate type thing, or what do you call it? When you can't eat dairy? Lactose intolerant. But it turns out that wasn't it. Now, kidney function's fine, but the amount of weight that I've got, what's basically happening is that when I lay down, apparently I am so goddamn fat that it literally pushes all that fat into my stomach, and basically that pushes the acid back up into my airway, which is why I was choking and I couldn't breathe, and also why I was getting that heart pain, all right? Because basically it was extreme heartburn. That made me feel better because it wasn't a heart attack. Now, I do have, after an ultrasound on my liver, because there was some abnormal tests that came back from that, it shows that I have fatty infiltrates within the liver, which is something very common with very obese people and can lead to extreme complications down the line, especially if I was drinking, which luckily enough with COVID, I have not been. The point of the story is I am this close to being very sick. All right, I'm not diabetic at the moment, but the blood panels that we did showed that I'm what you would call pre-diabetic. Again, being this weight, it's not something that's unexpected for me, but at the same time, it doesn't change the level of anger that I have with myself for letting it get this far. Because like I've always, when I was at the height of my training, because I do love training, that's the dumb part about all of this, is that I used to look at people and go, man, how can you let it get that far? Do you know what I mean? Like, how did you become that person that just sat on the couch and didn't go outside? And the combination of the heat here in Dubai, the combination of being sleep deprived and trying to do what I could to help out my wife for the 3 or 4 months before COVID, the way that the world has just turned on its head with COVID, so my work has been busier than it's ever been. Obviously, I'm trying to do what I can with the family as well. I can throw you as many excuses as you like, but the reality is I became the thing that I always questioned, like, surely it's not that hard to break out of that habit. Now, since the video in June 2019, and I actually deleted a lot of footage off this camera as we started this process today, it was embarrassing how many Mondays I set this camera up, stood in front of it and did exactly this. I went, well, it's Sunday, we can start again, and we're gonna lose all the weight, yeah! And it never made it onto YouTube. Because we did that, and have a bad day, and we called the colonel, he'd come running. Next minute, we're bathing in a pool of oily sweat. It wasn't pretty, and it's all 100% my fault. But the reality is, it is not good enough. I have all the excuses in the world, but it is not good enough. So what I want to do is reboot this, because there's no better accountability than being on camera. I mean, I've had comments in other YouTube videos recently of, oh, Cheeseburger's been packing on a bit of fudge. Rightly so, I have been. So there's no better way of having accountability than throwing this up on my YouTube channel. But more importantly, I had a few people reach out over the last year saying, hey man, like I'm in a similar situation to you. Like, can we get this Gamers with Grit thing going? Because I want in. So those of you that are in a similar space to me, maybe you're healthier than me, maybe you're less healthy than me, I'd love to do this together. I'm not going to sit here and give you an exercise plan or anything like that. This is literally just us to tell our stories to each other. On the days where we're craving a cheeseburger, let's hit each other up via our Discord channel and say, hey, maybe that's not a great idea. So that's kind of where we came from over the last year. Let's talk about what we're going to do as of right now and the steps that I've taken over the last couple of weeks. So what happened a few weeks ago is that my wife needed a break. I couldn't take time off work, but I was working from home at the time. So we went to a hotel here in Dubai where basically she and my daughter could use the private pool and I could just stand in there and do all my work. Nothing really changed for me. Now, when we were there, we actually met a local personal trainer who was basically working in the gym downstairs. They were closed. They were offering like spin classes in your room. I said, hey man, do you know what? Why don't you bring a spin bike up here? I'll hire it from you for the week. I'll get the legs turning and see if we can start something. Now, what became really awesome from that is we had a good chat. He's an ex-military guy. He understands a lot of people in my position that it's very frustrating, and being such a long road, it's easy to give up before you started. But he has a really good idea of that sort of thing. So I've actually hired him. I started training with him last week, and we're going to be training with him going forward. He might come onto some of these videos. He might not. If you see me working out in a gym in some of this footage on a shaky cam, that's going to 100% be him filming the process. So we haven't spit out a diet plan as yet. The idea for now is eat whatever I want, but I had to basically keep to a certain amount of calories. So he was looking at what I was eating, he threw up in his mouth, and then we got to work. And then since then, every 4 days, we've been cutting down about another 10% calories because he was worried if we abandoned it too quickly that I would crash. And that's probably a pretty good way of doing it. Now, because I have so much weight going through my knees, that means we're trying to avoid running and very explosive dynamic exercises at the start. And our plan is to just start nice and slow, doing a lot of rehab stuff. So a lot of you that watched that first video last year probably remember that the reason I started getting fat in the first place, considering I did used to lift many years ago, was a bit of a back injury from deadlifting. I don't know how I did it. No one seems to know how to fix it. But I have noticed that with this different kind of lifting that I'm doing with my PT, it's starting to actually feel for the first time in a long time pretty good. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not throwing up massive amounts of tin. We're definitely down in the junior section of weights right now, but everything's moving and feeling good. You know, I'm not breaking any records. I definitely feel uncomfortable in the gym. I had my first day back at a big boys gym today. I signed up there last night. And I was by far I would say the fattest guy in the room, and B, probably the most unattractive person in the room. Now, part of that was very disheartening, but the part of it that made me angry, that put on a little bit of fuel. Because even though I was the fattest guy in the room, that ego that drives people like me, I mean, I think anyone that has a YouTube channel, we've all got a little bit of an ego problem, right? It drove me to say, you know what? I might be the fattest guy here, but I'm gonna outperform that guy. I'm gonna outperform that person. So that drive to finish my workouts, to finish those sets, even at the small weight, it was really nice to feel that coming back. Because this is the first time in a year that I've actually started this video and gone, this is the one. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the time that we're gonna get it right. I have no doubt I'm gonna make mistakes. I have no doubt that pizzas will be consumed in the making of this series. But I don't want to hide that either. Like, I want to share things with you guys. So I'm going to put through on my social media, whether it be Instagram at Chewburger84 or Twitter at Chewburger84, all of it. It's all going to be there. I'm going to record as much as I can on my cell phone. What footage is usable, I'm going to put here on the next episodes. I want to show you the real highs and lows of this process for someone in my shoes. All right, I don't want to do the whole, I want to vlog my journey because I'm such an important and interesting person, but I'm just not, right? I'm just an average dude that got real fat and needs to be better. I'm going to kick my butt until we basically solve this. And I hope that you join us with this. So wherever you are in your fitness journey, you are welcome here. If you are the elite guy running Tough Mudder, if you are the elite guy picking up 500 off the floor, if you're the guy like this guy that's sitting on his butt and doing nothing, let's do it together, man, right? That's what we wanted Alternerd Reality to be such a long time ago. It's what I want Gamers with Grit to be, is a place that no matter where you are, there's one thing that unifies us. We all love games. We all love being nerds. What if we could expand that love to maybe being a little bit healthier together as well? That's why we're here. That's why I'm here talking nonsense. Now, what we might do is turn this a little bit in coming weeks. I'll talk about what games I've been playing. I'll talk about how I balance my time between gaming and family, work, exercise, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's all going to be in here. Now, I'd love your feedback below. Let's do this, man. All right? So make sure you join our Discord channel. We're going to try and put together some things that allow us to be more interconnected, whether it's going to be using hashtags or private channels. I'm going to figure that out over the next couple of weeks to make sure that we can hold each other accountable. I already have a couple of guys that are actively fat shaming me in our Patreon channel for one of the podcasts. I don't know whether that's helping or causing me physical harm. We'll see. But either way, let's do this together, folks. I want it to be a safe place. Let's support each other. And I really hope to see you have some success. And I really want me to have some success going forward. So let's rock. Let's do this. And I will see you guys in a couple of days where I show you the first steps we've taken at the gym and hopefully have an update on weight going forward. Cheers.